And we are back. We are United by Rice, where we talk about all things related to AANHPI in entertainment, creative spaces, and beyond. I'm Junko, one of your co-hosts.
And I'm Ben, and we're here today to talk about a particular film called Forge by director and writer Jing Ai Ng, and starring a number of people that a couple you'll recognize for sure, like Kelly Marie Tran. But then our
Mhm.
guests for this episode are Andie Ju, who plays the lead. She's the sister, but plays the lead, along with Brandon Sue, who's not on our show, but he plays her
Mm.
brother. But a fun film I saw it at South by Southwest, not this most recent one, but when it premiered over a year ago at South by, and
Ah,
it's just now having its limited theater release. But a fun film to
got it.
talk about. I've got a Miami background because the film is based in Miami, and when you watch the film, you will see that Miami is very prominently featured, and we'll talk about that a little bit because I think that's where Jing Ai
Yeah.
grew up, and she's
Would
heavily
yeah, would you
influenced.
say yeah, would you say featured, or would you say Miami takes on a character in and of itself in the storytelling?
I'd say
Since
more.
I haven't seen it yet.
Yeah, I'd say more featured. So the log line for the film, and I'm not reading this, I'm just gonna kind of
Yeah.
go by the couple times I've watched it, is, as I mentioned, Brandon and Jing play, or not Jing, Brandon and Andy play
Mhm.
brother and sister, pretty young siblings. They're, maybe the stereotypical children of Asian immigrant parents who run a restaurant, right? A Chinese restaurant,
Okay.
and
Yeah.
presumably one of the very few good ones in Miami. Um, and they, in particular, the daughter, or Andie Ju, her name's Coco, by the way. Her character name's Coco, and
Mm.
Brandon plays Raymond. She's very talented. She's a very talented artist, and particularly talented at copying art.
Oh.
And she gets pulled in along with her brother into this more or less a scam. There's a rich white couple and that's involved in embarrassing them into this, where they start to recreate paintings
So
that,
forgeries?
yeah, essentially the yes. So the white couple, and particularly the son, is an heir to an art collection.
Ah.
He stored them in his mansion in the basement, and they all get water damaged.
Oh.
But he's hit hard times, and so
Mm.
he wants to sell these paintings, and the only way to sell them is to actually recreate them. And here comes Coco, who's got that skill set to do it. So,
Mhm.
and then Kelly Marie Tran plays, I think it's FBI, yeah, probably FBI
Oh, okay.
agent who's knows that there's a forgery ring going on, and essentially is on the hunt to find them. It's actually Catch Me If You Can, if you recall that film,
Yeah,
Steven
yeah,
Spielberg
yeah.
and
With
Leonardo and Tom Hanks.
DiCaprio, yeah. Mhm.
He was obviously more around, like, forging, I think, checks or something like that.
Yeah, something like that.
It's a similar kind of cat and mouse movie where you've got Kelly Marie Tran trying to find out who's doing this, and ultimately, well, I won't spoil the ending, but
Yeah.
I there's gonna be some type of confrontation. Um, but as far as Miami being a character, I think it's a good question. I think I would say it's more the backdrop, and a clear,
Mm.
um, dedication to showing Miami, showing the backdrop, showing the environment, showing the buildings and the night scenes. And the first thing I thought about when I saw the film was a Michael Mann Miami Vice
Mm.
influence, which I later
Mhm.
learned from Jingai that she's clearly a huge fan of his work, both the
Mm.
Miami Vice series, but in particular the Miami Vice film, the
Huh.
much troubled film with Colin Farrell and
Right. Jamie
Jamie
Foxx?
Foxx, and
Yeah,
then
yeah, yeah.
was it like Gong Li? I
Oh gosh.
it's
Yeah, I only remember, yeah, Farrell and Fox.
But I but I think one of the, it was your, you know, somewhat typical, Asian woman with the white knight type of story, and
Yeah, 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 yeah.
I think it was Gong Li in a very rare American speaking or English speaking role, right? Which is
Uh,
also, I think, at the time heavily criticized because her accent was very heavy, etc. But
mm,
that film has actually had a quite a cult following, And I think it's now become somewhat of a beloved film, so much so that they're
Hmm.
now making a new Miami Vice coming out
Oh, they are? Well,
soon.
okay.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So
All
stay
right.
It's going to be called Miami Vice 1985. So they're gonna
Got it.
date it back to, like, the times of the, you know,
Yeah, the 80s
Don
nostalgia.
Johnson, white blazer, teal T-shirt
Yeah.
look, which
Yeah,
will be
yeah, yeah.
amazing. Yeah.
Hmm.
So, but anyway, Forge, I thought, like, stylistically, this is Jing Ai's first feature film.
Hmm.
I'm sure, low indie budget. Damien Bao, who's become a fairly well-known casting director, found the
Hmm.
talent for this film.
Hmm.
And I think it's worth talking about because I think that's one of the things I noticed first. I'd never seen Andie Ju or
Hmm.
Brandon Suhu in any film, and they're obviously the leads of this film. And I think they're both really good. Like,
Yeah.
um, I'm very, I'm not an expert. You're going to be more of an expert than me in terms of evaluating how good they are,
Oh, okay.
but they both play very complicated roles. Um, and I think they're both really good. I really think if people see this film, it could lead to some good things for both of them.
Hmm.
Andie is our guest, and she's delightful, as is Jing Ai, who I've gotten to talk to a couple times now. And again, as a first effort film, it is beautiful to look at. You could see the influence of a Michael Mann. You could see the
Hmm. Wait,
influence
wait,
of
does that include the sharp, like, backlit light
yeah.
thing that
So
used to yeah.
So my guess is they don't have the budget to be able to create those like shot. I don't. You're talking about the famous Michael Mann shots that are shot at night
Uh,
with seemingly like no lighting, right? Um,
yeah.
yeah. So you can get like glimpses of efforts there, but I don't think they could do it as well as Michael Mann can.
Mhm.
But you can see
Mm.
the influence. You could also see the influence of a film like To Live or Die in L.A. That type of
Oh.
look and feel. And
Mm,
it's a
mhm.
interesting story. I mean, beyond, um, I mean, it's a really interesting story because it's not just two people trying to make money by being con artists or scam artists, but there's a whole like, you already see the social class thing going on
Mm.
between the rich white
Mm.
couple
Mhm.
and then it's all baked in this Asian immigrant story,
Mm. And it's still a
that
sibling story too, instead of
and
like a
sibling
married couple
story.
or that kind of thing.
Yes, and it's a
Yeah.
very sweet sibling story, to be honest,
Mm.
right? And I
Mhm.
won't give away too much of what
Yeah.
happens in their relationship during the course of time. Um, Kelly Marie Tran, by the way, again, it's been a while since this film came out. I think we might have briefly talked about her when we reviewed The Wedding Banquet because she was in that
Right.
bit, but she is doing good work. She's
Yeah.
a lot of independent work, and she's someone that probably could have quit the business several years ago after her Star Wars film. Because if you recall, she was in, I think, the second of
Solo.
the new
Was it?
trilogy. No,
Yeah.
so
Not New Hope.
what would that be? So it was The Force Awakens, then I
Mm.
think it was Last Jedi.
Duh.
Yeah, Last Jedi.
Yeah.
So she's in
Right.
that one and The Rise of Skywalker.
Right, right,
And I
right.
think she got so much hate
Right.
from The Last Jedi,
Mhm.
which is shameful, right? It's
Well, not
literally
only
just
her, but Boyega too. Basically, anyone who was not white got shat
yes,
on,
yes. It's
and
like,
that
why
is an
was
audience problem. That is not their problem.
it is not their problem, but you could easily see how that could destroy a young person's career, right? So,
Yeah, but I think
y
also the timing was interesting because I think it was also when there was a shift. There are people shitting on them, but there are also the people that are defending, and to the extent there was like on an organizational level, right? Like CAPE or TAF, like any of those Asian American organizations, though, were already organized enough and plugged into social media because the fan stuff was all like individuals, right? They're just little flies. But then you have the organizations who are already plugged into social media who could at least put, you know, just uh, have a voice in that conversation, but kind of swat the flies. Yeah,
Yeah.
so it's yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think
Right.
that's true,
It's
but I
not
mean,
as
boy,
bad. Like some people would have disappeared
yeah, but
because we were not organized enough.
The Star Wars fanverse or fanboy nation is strong though, right? And I mean, I know Daisy Ridley had quit social for a while. I'm sure Kelly Marie
Mm.
had quit social for a
Yeah, yeah.
while,
She took a break.
you
Yeah,
know?
yeah, 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 yeah,
So
yeah,
I think it has an
yeah,
effect, to your
yeah.
point, like, does
And
it mean
this
they're
is
not gonna
why
get
I'm a Trekkie. Because if you're a Trekkie and you're like, I don't like people of color, or I don't like trans, or I don't like LGBTQ, I'm like, you're not a Trekkie. There's so
Yeah,
many
because they kinda
examples.
started from that diversity, right?
Yeah, so it's like you can't
Yeah.
really like yeah, I mean since I think even the or I mean definitely in Next Generation, you have a lot of um like trans themed what would actually later on be recognized as
Yeah.
trans themes, for example. So it's just yeah, it's really funny some of these Star Trek forums when people are being stupid. All the real Trekkies are like, what about this episode and that episode?
For our future running series, with Tamlin Tomita, we should do a
Mm,
Star Wars versus Star Trek, episode
mm.
with her because she was in
Yeah.
Star Trek. That's
Well,
obviously just wishful thinking, as we know Tamlin we don't have
there's so
that
many
actually
things we can
scheduled yet. Um,
Yeah, there's so many
uh
things we could talk to her about.
yeah, 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 but anyway, Kelly Marie's actually really good in this film,
Yeah,
in
yeah.
addition to the rest of the cast, so it's a very well acted film. There's probably, as a first time filmmaker, there's probably some areas that the film, I think if you read critics, it's maybe lacking like a really big climactic scene or something to kind of keep the energy of the film really going. I think it's meant to be a little bit more of a cerebral film and a sibling film, so it didn't really
Mm,
bother me either time I watched it. But I could
yeah.
see if you're going to watch some type of crime film or heist film, there's probably expectations of a little bit of whether it's action or that type of thing in it.
Mhm.
Again,
Mhm.
not something that bothered me. I think again the performances stand out, the quality of the film. Again, this looks like a film that was probably shot with a $50 million budget versus I'm sure less than $5 million budget is my guess.
Mhm.
So I
Mhm.
can't wait
Yeah,
to
yeah,
see.
yeah.
I know she's Jing Ai is now represented by Black Bear. I
Okay.
can't wait to see what future projects she starts to work on because she does have
Nice.
really good touch, and then just a delightful person, like,
Oh, yeah.
love to play Magic: The Gathering and just really down to earth, likes to talk about film so much, and I would love to get to talk to her again.
Cool.
As far as forgeries, uh are do you have a skill set around art or anything like that, that
Mm,
if you had to forge anything, you could do it? Have you ever
what could I
forged a
forge?
signature? Have you ever signed your mom or dad's signature when you were a kid on a
No.
doctor note or anything like that?
No. But I mean, these days, like, it's super easy to
Nobody
forge a
looks. Yeah,
signature. Well,
sure,
well, that too, but like, you can literally like I've saved my e-signature, like, you have your laptop take a photo of it and
sure.
blah, blah, blah. So I have done that, but mostly in the context of the midst of COVID when it was hard to get
Mhm.
signatures. So it was that kind of thing. But I'm like, have I? I'm like trying to remember. I don't think I've ever needed a reason to forge something. How about you?
Oh, I'm sure when I was my kids sometimes
You're
listen,
pretty sure.
so I should probably not talk about this, but back in the days, I mean, this might be like literally elementary school age. I'm sure I used to occasionally need a note to miss
Oh.
something,
Yeah.
class or something, and honestly, I have to it's been a long time, I don't even remember properly. Maybe I was even doing this with permission of my parents, but they just weren't home
Mm.
to sign something.
Right, right,
So
right.
but I remember being able to do my mom's signature decently well. My
Yeah.
dad's, you wouldn't be able to read his signature, like, ever, like,
Mm.
I guess it's artistic, like, I would appreciate it in
Oh.
that way, but there's no letters involved. It's just,
Right.
you know? So in some
Yeah.
ways, I think even though I probably did his less, it probably would have been easier to do. It's just kind of like I don't know,
A
just
squiggle.
I don't know how to describe it.
As
I'm
you're
actually
demonstrating your father's
yeah.
nature
Yeah. I mean,
online.
you know, he came from a family of architects and artists, so I
Ah,
think it
okay.
is probably something he spent a lot of time thinking about and is more artful than not, but, you know,
Yeah,
if you look at it
definitely.
once, you would just be like, "What is that?"
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, no, from a forgery standpoint, that would probably be I used to think I could copy a drawing pretty well, like,
Oh,
as an artist.
as an exercise, yeah, yeah.
People I don't think I ever had the brain as an artist to be able to some people have a canvas and they could paint something without looking at something, or they're just very
Mm,
creative and
mhm,
can create something nice. I could never do that. That was an art skill I
mm,
never had. But if you
yeah.
give me something to copy and being able to, get the dimensions right
Mhm.
and everything. I was actually pretty good at that when I was young, and it probably comes again from my dad's lineage
Yeah,
of
yeah.
artists and creative individuals. But it's not something I think I knew at a pretty young age. Like I wasn't a true artist because I couldn't create something out of my own brain, right? I
Right,
had to
out of
copy.
nothing, pretty much, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and I think
whereas you yeah. I was just gonna say, whereas, you see kids who are just constantly drawing, like, I
yeah,
wasn't that kid, but you see
yeah,
kids who are constantly drawing whatever they think up of, and you're like, "Oh, okay, that's definitely creating something from nothing." Like,
yeah. I remember
you just keep buying them crayons.
I think I knew I wasn't an artist when I saw I don't know if it was a special or a book when I was young about Charles Schultz, the Snoopy
Oh, yeah.
Charlie Brown
Snoopy artist,
artist, and
yeah. Mhm.
looking at some of his drawings when he was a kid and how he would
Mm.
just nonstop, like, doodles,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
they were just, again, like, cartoony, but still like, "Oh, my brain doesn't work that way."
yeah.
So, in this film, actually, Coco, or Andy's character, I think she lives in that world where she wants to be a real artist,
Mm.
right? But
Right, like a legitimate, yeah.
she gets a lot of validation from being able to copy, like, masterpieces. So, it's a
Mm.
really that part of the story is also interesting as well.
Hmm,
Do you have a favorite art style? Like, are you a museum person?
okay. I think so. Yeah, I just haven't really thought about going to the museum lately. But no, yeah. I think but yeah, I think yeah, I guess I am given the time. I think it's a time issue these days. I remember when I was did I go to that? Yeah. I remember when I was stuck in Ottawa, Canada unexpectedly.
Mm,
Um I was with a client and they were going through their visa process, so you have to leave the country first. Um, but unexpectedly, something happened with the State Department's computer system, so we were stuck there for like an additional 4 or 5 days, and we're like,
mm,
so yeah, we were just like hitting up all the museums.
sure, sure.
Uh, yeah, and I did enjoy that, but I think I might be more drawn to sculptures, um, and more architecture these days. As a kid, growing up outside of Chicago, so it was always the Art Institute of Chicago, those would be our field trips. So, what was it? Uh, they're like, the famous, like, Sunday in the Park
Mm,
one, that would be part of the art curriculum, and anything, the Art Institute offered for kids kinda thing was probably my greatest influence as far as, more like, visual, like, painting art, so but actually my grandmother was an artist, she's a watercolor artist.
mm.
I have a couple of her pieces, in my house. And, but that never rubbed off on me. Yeah, I enjoyed helping her, I think organize her watercolors because they would be in powder form in
Mm.
these little glass tubes. So, like, maybe help her organize it, but I never, and she maybe noticed that too. It's not like she, like yeah, it's not like
Is
she
it
gave me, like, a pen and brush and was like, "Here,
he
have
wasn't
fun,
trying to
have at
mentor
it."
you, yeah.
Not
Well,
necessarily. I think she noticed because I wasn't, maybe I have some memories of, like, fooling around with her watercolors,
sure.
or, um, mind you, I think also these pigments are expensive and not
Oh, sure.
appropriate for a child to be playing with, I'm
Sure.
gonna
He's
assume.
probably like, don't touch my stuff.
Maybe a
I'll
little bit.
buy I'll
Yeah,
buy
yeah,
you the
yeah.
Crayola version. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. She's like, let me get you the cheaper ones. Maybe. But she did well enough that at one point she got to fly a couple of her pieces out to New York to show them. And this would have been back in the early 90s, I think.
Hmm.
So, yeah, yeah. So I grew up with that. I'm actually, my grandfather, he was a doctor, but he actually was a watercolor artist as well. And I don't know who it was, maybe my mom, I think, maybe her siblings had put together a book of his works posthumously. So I
Hmm.
still have that too. Yeah, actually, so both my grandparents were that way. My mom was never a big drawer artist in that way. So I I think it skipped.
Hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
It's one of those things too. I think of music the same way, where you
Yeah.
don't really know. Like some people probably have a lot of talent and never tap into it, right? It's just someone would have had to get you to do it, or you would have had to have an interest in doing it. But I wonder how many people are sitting out there
Yeah.
who could have been amazing artists that just never really do it.
I don't know. I feel like, well, especially music. I think music is kind of a lot more accessible than just a creatively speaking, objects are instruments. You can hit them,
Sure.
you can hit them for a different pitch and all that. And um I think if a child, let's say, is drawn to sounds, they will just create it of their own out of their environment um is
Yeah,
my thought.
I think that's hopefully true in a lot of but I remember
Yeah.
what's the film last year, 2 years ago, the Bob Dylan
Mm.
film with Timothy Chalamet.
Yes.
What's that film called?
And unexpected, nope. Uh un not unexpected person. Um
I don't even think
uh
that's close. I don't know what unexpected person is.
Not unexpected. I know we're like, what was
A
it?
complete unknown
A
is
Okay,
what it's called.
unknown,
Okay,
unexpected. Okay, okay.
unexpected person's not
I was in the
too
right
terrible. Yeah, yeah.
ballpark. Yeah.
But I remember Monica Barbera in that film who plays Joan
Mm-hmm.
Baez, in reading that she learned to sing and learn to play the guitar for that film. And you watch her in that film, and she sounds amazing. Like like she could have been a singer, a perform
Mm-hmm.
I mean, she sounds like Joan Baez. So I
Mm-hmm.
do think there are people out there that have lots of talent and maybe they because they dove into acting instead, they never tapped into the musical side of things,
On
and
the
I'm
music. Yeah.
probably maybe I am or she undersells, I'm sure, growing up as an actor, you're probably doing some musical theater stuff, so she probably had done more than we
Yeah.
know, but still, it's
Yeah.
pretty amazing. Um, Switching gears, the film Forge, I think just premiered in LA, I wanna say the 16th or 17th of May.
Mm-hmm.
It's a very limited release, so folks go out, you'll have to do your search for Forge, Jing Ai Ng, Jing space AI, last name is NG, and go watch this film. I anticipate they didn't know for sure yet when,
Mm-hmm.
that at
Okay.
some point it will hit streaming in the probably next few months, but before then, go make them some money and go watch it in a
Yeah.
theater. I imagine it's in your bigger cities. We've got Jing Ai Ng and Andie Ju from Forge. Great film. Please go watch it. We are United by Rice. You can find us on all the different podcast channels, networks, etc., and United by Rice podcast on Instagram. Thank you all for listening. Hi, we're back, and I'm here now with Jing Ai Ng and Andie Ju. Jing Ai Ng is the writer and director, and probably many other roles for the new movie Forge, which comes out May 16th, and Andie Ju stars as Coco Zhang in the film. So, welcome to both of you. Thank you for joining the podcast.
Thank you for having
Yes,
us.
thank you for having us.
Now, as you know, I've almost stalked you for the last year because I saw your film at South by Southwest last year, and really liked and enjoyed the film so much that I've just been waiting for when are we going to be able to talk and when is there going to be the next milestone. So we finally gotten there. I'd love to maybe just for people that are going to discover Forge newly around this time, maybe just get your description of how you talk about the film to people.
Oh yeah, Forge is about a pair of Chinese American siblings in Miami who run an art forgery ring, and the FBI art crimes agent who has been sent to find them.
Yeah.
Um, Perfect, and we'll definitely stay spoiler free.
Yeah.
Um, now, the cast that you've put together, I know you worked with Damien Bao, but I would love to know, starting with Andy, but then casting the siblings of, well, Andy and Brandon, who are the ex Brandon Suhu, but Raymond and Coco, and then casting Emily, your FBI agent. What were the characteristics, the notes that you gave Damien when you started the process of casting?
The really wonderful thing about collaborating with Damien is he's an expert in discovery casting and also street casting. And so
Mm,
we knew we wanted to approach the two lead roles with a really open mind, no stone left unturned. So we put the casting out there, and when Hollywood says they cannot cast a Asian film, they're lying because there is
mm,
we are just spoiled for talent and we saw so many wonderful actors. It
mm,
just so happens that Andy and Brandon both brought to Coco and Raymond like exactly what we needed, which was an understanding of, I think, and also a feeling, right?
mm,
That of these characters' ambitions and what it meant to them, not just on a level of like wanting more money or wanting to be famous or wanting your art in a museum, but also what it meant to them inside, like deep down, what that respect and that desire meant for them.
mm. Well, and for you, Andy,
Mhm.
you and Brandon have such wonderful chemistry on screen, and you're meant to obviously be siblings, but much more than that because you're also, working together, scheming together, I suppose. Had you worked with Brandon before?
I had never worked with Brandon. I had never met him before, which is crazy because I feel like he's like the mayor of like Koreatown and just like such a figure in the community in terms of Asian American actors. And I think immediately from the chemistry read, it was like very clear that like that sibling chemistry was there, that there was
Mm,
it just was so easy with him, and it was so easy to joke around and also um, make fun of him make fun of me,
mm,
like, and then also feel this level of you got me and I got you. um, yeah, I don't really know how to describe it, but I think that Jing and Damien really did such a great job casting these characters and finding, like, again, as Jing said, so many people auditioned for these two roles, and so the fact that they were able to find us and have this chemistry is crazy.
Well, and it's probably stating the obvious, but obviously the chemistry between these two characters is critical to the film because you have to, because it's not a normal sibling relationship, right? It's not just lovey-dovey, but one
Yeah,
is somewhat pulling the other into criminal activity, and you have to believe that there's still just a familial bond with them, no matter whether you get caught or not, and whether you cross the moral line or not. You have to believe that love is still the foundation of this
for sure.
this relationship in this story. So for Jing Ai, we talked about chemistry. Who did you identify first, and then did you have to do lots of chemistry reads to find the right pairing?
No, we were really, really fortunate to be able to do it in conjunction. So we were having callbacks for both Coco and Raymond on
Mm,
in New York and in LA. And it so happens that, we had it was actually like, like I said, we were spoiled for choice, so we were able to conduct a proper chemistry read in the
mm,
room.
Okay.
and pair up different actors. And so we were able to choose a pair as opposed to one at a time. And that was really special as well.
Sure. Well, art heist films are fairly common and fun, but this is a very different film, right? This is about art forgery, which we don't see as often, and certainly not on the big screen. I'm curious where this story came from, Jing Ai. It's not just forgery, but it's this really intricate story of, these two characters who have their grandfather's collection and et cetera, et cetera. It's such a unique idea. I'd love to know the inspiration and where you came up with it.
Yeah, basically, a lot of people don't notice, but well, I'm a bit of an art crime fanatic, and so I
Mm,
follow art forgery cases pretty closely. One of the largest art forgery scandals in recent history in the US, around $80 million worth of forged art. The art forger was Asian and he fled
mm,
to China before anyone ever interviewed him. And so
mm,
he's a large question mark, right? And because of that, like that was the inspiration behind me writing Forge, and that was such a big question mark that it created a blank canvas, and my imagination obviously filled in the gaps there.
mm,
Stuff that was more personal, like my ruminations and what it means to be Asian American, and also the setting of Miami, which is my hometown.
hmm.
And so I think for sure, like, art forgery is definitely not featured as much as like art heist, for example. Um, but it is, forgery films hold a very special place in my heart.
Mm,
I love To Live and Die in LA
sure.
and Catch Me If You Can. So those were like huge references for me.
Sure, sure. Well, I'm going to ask you the reference question too, and we'll come back to that
Mhm.
because there's obviously a Miami aesthetic that is so beautifully captured as well. Andy, for you, when you first read, or I don't know how much of the script you first saw before you read for it, but what drew you to the character of Coco?
Everything about her. Just I read so sometimes when you get the audition slides, you don't get the full script, but they
Hmm.
were so generous to send it out, and just from reading it from the get, and even just as I was reading it, I was like, this is so good, and I can't believe that this character is like that there's a chance that I get to play somebody like this that is so ambitious and street savvy but cares so deeply about her family and but once there's just so much about it that I related to and so um yeah, I just got swept up in all of this. What was your question?
No, that was it. Like, what got you excited about the role, right?
Yeah.
And you
All of
answered it.
it.
Yeah. And you said something very interesting earlier, Jing Ai, about like sometimes Hollywood thinks you can't build an Asian cast. When you actually first wrote this script, like as a viewer when you watch it, it didn't have to be an Asian cast, right? It could have been anybody. Obviously you write in some elements of Asian family that are very familiar to us as Asian Americans, but was it always going to be Chinese American siblings with a Chinese restaurant, or did that get kind of added as you went through casting?
No, I think, it's funny. When I first brought this script to the 2021 Film Independent Lab, and they picked me up out of nowhere. Like, I didn't know
Mm,
anyone at Film Independent. They just chose me in the script, which I am always grateful for. It was actually two best friends. It was set in New York,
mm,
and one was white and one was Asian. And I
mm,
consistently got the note that everyone really cared about the Asian character and didn't really
mm,
like the other character. And it was really obvious to me that I was writing something that was close to my heart, just in a roundabout way. And so Forge slowly evolved over time to become closer to me and closer to what I wanted to say. I was 25 when I first wrote the script, and I definitely like grew up in the process and figured out like what I exactly I wanted to say with the story. Um, and it became very clear, like when the characters in the main cast did become Asian, that I did get a lot of notes that I should maybe change the race of the characters, which was,
mm,
I know, crazy to think about, but it was something I was very stubbornly
mm.
attached to, obviously.
Sure.
And maybe this movie would have been easier to make. It took about 5 years from script to now. Maybe this movie would have been easier to make with different characters, but I really wanted to make it this way.
Sure.
I thought it
So
was
to,
important.
y- yeah, so to clarify, when you say you got notes, there was maybe some suggestions that your path to get the film made would be easier with not a Asian without Asian leads, probably is what you're talking about, right?
Absolutely. I
Yeah.
was not given that note subtly. It wasn't like
Yeah.
necessarily always coded. Like some people just said it. Other people would be like, "Oh, like maybe we could change the characters," and
Hmm.
but someone suggested putting it in Holden's point of view, which
Mm.
is really telling, I think.
Yeah.
But I think that's also the state that our industry is probably in.
Sure.
So
Well, and I guess, I don't know if you know the moment, but how did you hold that off, right? Because this is your first feature. And if I'm in your shoes, I want to get this film made so much and so badly that how did you ward off that pressure? And what was the point where you knew you could still go forward with the way you wanted to make this film?
I think something that is in the film itself is like what are you willing to do to accomplish your ambitions? I think that is a question that every person should ask themselves, because that is a question that when you don't ask yourself that, you can lead to yourself doing terrible things. And part of the reason I wrote Forge is I believe everyone has a capacity for greed and for unchecked ambition. I believe it lives in every single person. Um, and in my case, I realized that I wanted to make this movie on my terms with characters
Hmm.
that I felt passionate about. And if you think about Forge on paper, it is a crime movie, and people love crime movies,
Hmm.
especially at this budget. Um, but we hadn't seen, at least in a while, like an Asian American crime movie like this. And I always use like Justin Lin's first movie as a reference of like there are sparks of that, but they're not consistent. And
Sure.
I believe that Asian American stories have a right to be different.
Hmm.
Um, so that was something I felt really strongly about, and I can credit probably my own ignorance and stubbornness about how hard this process is going to be to, carrying us through.
Yeah. One of the things I applaud about the film from an Asian American perspective is it's oftentimes we see, especially from a first feature from a director, it's the generational trauma immigrant story, very tropey, right? And I applaud those stories also being made because they come in many flavors. I think you're much more subtle in this approach, right? It's not so on the nose that, hey, we're talking about the immigrant story, or we're talking. So I would love to hear maybe Andy from you. How did you relate to the character of Coco, or her and her relationship with her brother and the family, and how did that feel closest to your Asian American identity?
So close. And also just to go back to what you said about Jing, like very subtly having these tropes and these themes. She just does such a beautiful job in doing that and not having it be in your face,
Right.
and doing it in a creative way where it makes you like really think about it in a way, because I feel like she just kind of like subverts it and then just leaves it there for you to pick up on, or however, like, so just yeah. But in regards to your question for how I related to Coco, I actually forgot this, and then as I was like listening to you talk, I was like, oh yeah. But I mean, I related to Coco so much in regards to me being an Asian American, and growing up with parents that sacrificed so much for me, and feeling very protective and close to my family, obviously, like anyone might feel with their family, and but there is something unique about working with a sibling and working in a family business that many children of immigrants understand and know very
Hmm.
well. It really does test your um, it goes beyond now of just being like, I love you, you're my brother, you're my sister, you're my mother, you're my father. It's a totally different thing to be in a business together and work with somebody. And I have had that experience working with my own sibling in my life. And so that's why also with Raymond, like when you were talking about it's not just brother sister, there has to be more chemistry in regards to like them working together. I understood that so deeply, and it's not even like I can really surmise into words what it is, but I know that push and pull so
Mm,
well, and when you align, and how great it feels to work together because you guys are working together and to accomplish this goal, and you're on the same team and it feels great. But then when you don't align, which is what does happen often because people think differently,
mhm.
there'll be this push and pull of, okay, but this is what I think should be done. Please don't do this. And there's just so much more on the line, and weight to every decision because of the fact that you love this person so dearly.
Mm. Um, I'll be careful to ask this question so it doesn't give us spoilers, but in terms of how close you and your character Coco are,
Mm,
I love the final scene in the film. And we get an expression from Coco.
yeah.
You think Andy would make that same expression?
No, no, I don't think so. I think that Coco is. I actually learned a lot from her, and I felt like she was always one step ahead of me. It's strange to say,
Mm,
but there would be times in the script where again, having my own past experience, I would go to Jing and be like, but why? But like, help me understand. But why? And I yeah, I think that Coco is just so badass in that way where I don't think, to go to your question again, I'm sorry, I'm like going off the rails here.
that's okay.
I would not have had the same reaction, that is for sure.
In the cast, and we should talk about the great Kelly Marie Tran too,
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
because
Yep.
she plays a great
Amazing.
role as Emily. Yeah. Um, who's the best artist in the game of Pictionary out of your cast and crew?
We should do that.
Brandon.
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 Brandon's
And
actually a very talented artist.
uh, so Andy, in preparing for your role, and obviously you probably don't have to put too much brush to canvas for the role, but do you have that type of artistic talent as well? Any type of painting, sketching, anything that
Um,
you've done?
no, I mean, I think it's nothing, certainly nothing like being able to get away with forging art.
Sure.
But I want to say that I think I related to it in the sense of feeling like you can kind of get lost in the process once you
Mm,
kind of get into it. That being said, I never really had taken any like painting or drawing classes before, any art class like that. So once I booked the role, I was like, all right, like I signed up for art classes, started learning how to paint a little bit here and there, and even also when I was in Miami on my down days or during the weekend, I would like pop into a class here and there so that I could continue to kind of understand and delve into that world. I think I like painted a pear.
oh yeah, you
Yeah,
should show us.
I don't know. It's not very good, and then but this is a little pear that I did in one of my classes. My instructor
I
helped
love
me
it.
a lot. Yeah.
Yeah, it's always fruit, right? You always start with fruit.
Yeah, I know.
um, Jing Ai, we both at South by during the panel you had there, but even in conversations we've had, you've talked about those that have influenced you in your filmmaking, the visual identity that you've created for this film, and I imagine other films you'll make. Um, I'd love to hear more of that, and I'd also love to hear. I assume you're working off a pretty small indie budget, but this film it's very cinematic. How did you pull off something that looks this good? How did you shoot it?
I'll answer your cinephile question, kind of like
Sure.
influences. And the truth is, like, I am a huge cinephile. I am
Mm,
someone who not just enjoys making movies, I love watching movies.
mm,
And that's really where like my love for cinema comes from, is like being in this theater and loving that space. Um, I obviously love the films of David Fincher, like Social
mm,
Network was a huge impact on me, But I loved other crime movies, Deep Cover being one, To Live and Die in LA. And there are specific references even in this film itself to Live and Die in LA, the forgery sequence, and also
Hmm.
Purple Noon, which is, one of the Ripley movies. Um, so yeah, like I love cinema and I love the idea of being part of that fabric, that cultural fabric, and contributing to it, but also taking from it. So that's something that really inspires me.
Sure.
Um, and the question about budget, yes, we did have an incredibly small budget for what we pulled off, and we were able to pull it off through like longtime collaborators. So my
Mm,
DP and my editor, Leo and Bree, I've worked with them for almost 10 years now. I met them at film school, so we have a shorthand, and we were able to accomplish like so much, just from collaborating so much. But
mhm,
also something else was like, we pulled every favor we could,
mm,
in the city of Miami from everyone we knew. And our crew, our local crew, was so down to make anything work. A good example is like Tropical Chinese, which is the
mm,
real restaurant in Miami, but also in New York.
mm.
Greg let us film there for a really low price. And it's one of the oldest establishments, like Chinese establishments in Miami. But true to form, he said the only condition is that we are not going to close our restaurant. And
Ah,
that was a challenge in of itself, but it was another example of people being willing to make things work even though it wasn't perfect.
so that mean you were shooting like in the middle of the night, essentially, in those restaurant
Yeah.
shots?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, very good. Miami clearly comes through. Like your love for Miami clearly comes through in the film, and particularly the beautiful night shots. I'm curious about Michael Mann's influence on you, and if Miami Vice #1 was a show. You're probably too young to have watched that show, but maybe you've caught up on it on streaming, or maybe it's the film, Michael Mann's film Miami Vice, that you get inspiration from.
Yeah, so obviously Michael Mann is a huge inspiration for me. I love his stuff. Love Soderbergh as well, those two.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and but with Michael Mann specifically, Miami Vice, yes, it was the movie that inspired me, and funnily enough, got me into the TV show. Like I delved backwards because of the movie, but I love the movie. I am a Miami
Yeah,
Vice, fan, and I know at the time when it came out, it was very controversial, and people weren't sure to love it. But I think it definitely has more of a cult following now.
agree. Yes.
Um, and I love the aesthetic, and more than anything, like I think I love films more than bad or good or whatever that take swings and
Hmm.
that try things out. And that film is a perfect example of it.
Mm.
I just love the risks that it takes.
Um, are you following all the latest news? Are you excited about Heat 2?
I am really excited for Heat. I'm also excited for the new Miami Vice movie.
New Miami Vice, right? It's Miami Vice 95, I think they're calling, or
Yeah,
85, right? Yeah, yeah. Yeah,
yeah.
very
I
cool.
think the cast is great, and look, I love Miami. I'm happy to see more Miami on screen. I think it's such a cinematic city.
Yeah. Now, Andy, for you, is this your first lead role essentially in a feature film?
Yes, yeah.
What was this experience like for you?
It was oh, like how can I surmise it? It was obviously there were some days that were really hard, but I feel like I was very lucky to have this be my first lead film just because of who I was working with, and I was given a lot of space and a lot of grace to kind of flail. And
Hmm.
there were definitely some days where that was the case. But so it was, even like you hear a lot of people talking about how there's a lot of pressure, and there is a lot of pressure, but I feel like having gone through this experience with Jing and then also with Brandon, I feel like was such a blessing because like he just is such a he's just such a great guy, and he's such a nice person, and it was really interesting to see because I feel like we almost took on Raymond and Coco's relationship off screen in terms of him being this like magnetic, charismatic figure, and then me kind of using him as a shield a little bit to feel safe. And like he did feel like a
Mm,
big brother to me. And so whenever there were days on set where I was like really nervous or something, if I knew that he was on set the next day, I was like, okay, it's gonna be a good day. We got this. And so I feel really lucky to have learned the lessons that I learned, and to have
hmm
gone through this experience with Jing and with Brandon and everybody.
mm. And you mentioned the pressure. I'm curious for both of you. 'Cause I talked to a lot of Asian American filmmakers and actors, and I always get a varying degree of pressure that I think they feel as being Asian American and having the expectations of Asian Americans on their shoulders. Jingai, you answered the call by sticking to your guns and casting Asian American actors as lead actors. But I'd love to know how much of that seeps into uh, kind of your work and your process. Are you able to compartmentalize that enough, or do you really feel that pressure all the time?
I'm happy to start, Andy. I think it's incredibly hard. Yes, it's incredibly hard. Like the expectations are high, and it's not actually necessarily from my family or anything. I think my family,
Mm,
thankfully enough, is actually very chill.
mm,
Um, and this was something I put into the script as well. The character of Coco, like the expectations you have of yourself.
mhm,
Um, One thing I really learned on this project was how to let go of expectations and realize and enjoy the process, because it is something I genuinely love, is directing and writing and creating, you know, and I'm so happy that I get
mm,
to do that. Um, I think the stubbornness with Forge definitely was a little bit of youthful ignorance, and I am
mm,
actually really grateful for that. I'm not sure, like now, as the person I am now, that I would have been quite so like stubborn, but I'm so grateful that I was.
mm,
So I'm very, very thankful for the experience, and right now I'm focusing really on like not putting expectations on myself,
mm,
because I think the work itself is really rewarding.
mm,
Yeah. Um, I I think that in regards to the pressure that one feels, oh man, I think you know, I talk so much about how much I love the script from the get-go and how much I loved Coco, and I really uh, and Jing will attest to this, I really wanted to do Coco justice. I really wanted,
mhm,
because I loved her so much and I love the story so much and the character so much, but I feel like that pressure actually kind of got in the way for me um,
mm,
as I was shooting, because it was like, in a way, you're putting so much pressure on yourself that you're not like free to like really like explore. And so I feel like Coco in a way taught me so much, which was to kind of like let go of that
mm,
pressure, because if you have that pressure on you, you can't really do what it is that you want to do. And so, yeah, and I remember Jean one day was like, this can be fun. And I was like, yeah, you're
mm,
right, this can be fun.
Yeah.
And that was something that I think I constantly kind of went up against as I was shooting, was just trying to let go of that pressure and let go of that expectation of what you would think this should be or what have you. And so yeah, I'm very grateful to Coco and to Jing
mm.
for being able to go through that experience.
Jingai, did you discover something about yourself during the making of this film, particularly the directing of this film, in terms of what you needed to do to coach actors and particularly actors that might be doing their first big film?
Yeah, I think it is super important. I've learned now that the pressure is an important part of it.
Mm,
Um, and it's interesting to see, because I think a lot of business, including, in the film industry and auditions, like a lot of stuff happens online now.
mhm, mhm,
But on the day itself, when you've got two cameras set up and 100 people there that have showed up to, make your movie, I think it's a very different feeling, right? And to be able to acclimatize to that environment is a skill. Um, so what I learned is to not underestimate that for sure. I think, especially coming from shorts, a feature is just a different medium. It's a different animal, and not to underestimate that. Like I said, I think it's important. It's important to have a little bit of pressure. It's important to have expectations, but I think it's also not important to not be glued to them so stubbornly that you can't be flexible.
Mm, mm. Well, I guess you're near the end of the journey with this film, or maybe we could call it the middle of the journey. But for both of you, what has been the toughest part, as first-time feature makers?
I think that was it for me personally,
Mm,
was that pressure and learning to because I also just hate disappointing people, and so
mhm,
sometimes you show up and you're like, oh, I don't know, but then you just kind of have to keep going. And I think that was maybe the hardest thing, was that, because this project was so important to me, and because I love this script and this character so much, I really, again, like, just wanted to do it right. And there is no right, actually. And
mm,
again, I feel like Coco taught me a lot about. And also, there's this too, is that there will be pressure, and it's like, just, you got to learn how to, like, maneuver around it or past it, or not let it hinder you so much. I think that was maybe the hardest thing.
mm.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think for me, it was about learning about how long the feature process is. Yes, it takes a long
Mm,
time to make a movie. It also
mhm,
takes a long time to release a movie, is true,
mhm.
and promote a movie. And so just like knowing it's a marathon is really important. And that was something I really learned on this project, because coming from shorts, it's different, like I mentioned.
Sure. Well, and to that point, how are people going to see this film? I know the premiere's coming up.
Yeah, we're gonna be in LA at the Landmark New Art on the 15th, and in New York we're gonna be at the Quad on the 22nd before expanding to other markets on the 30th. So May is a big month for us.
Yeah.
So, and Asian Heritage Month, so it's appropriate. Is it a limited, overall limited theatrical release? Is that what you call it?
It's a limited theatrical release. We're going indie with it.
Yeah. And then do you know what happens after that in terms of potential streaming or anything like that?
No details yet, but we'll let
Okay.
you know and keep you updated for sure.
Excellent. Excellent. Since it's Asian Heritage Month, I'm curious, each of you, um, do you have, you could name a couple if it's too hard to answer the question, but who's a Asian American in your life or that you've, you know, studied from afar that's a huge influence on you?
Ooh, what a question.
Hmm. I think all the women in my life, all my mother, my sister, my aunts, are such strong, crazy, you know, like, I just, there are a lot of women in my family, and I'm so grateful that there are, because I feel like I've learned so much from them, and I've grown up, like, um, being able to grow up with them, and being able to grow up with my cousins together, and kind of see our aunts and our parents in a certain way. And then as you get older, you're like, oh, they are like me, or were like me at some point. And and then to see where they came from to where they are now, is, you just feel like such a sense of pride. And yeah, there's there's so many lessons that they've taught me. Some of them a little bit crazier than others, but I yeah, I just that was also something about this script, was that I think Jing really showed Asian women in a way where it's like, you don't
Mm,
have to see us in this way, and it's like, no, we are this way. We're all the colors, and we're all of the things. We're not just like this cookie cutter version of us that you think we are. So yeah.
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 I'm not going to name a specific person, because I think I just want to shout out to the Asian American filmmaking community,
Mm,
especially here in LA. It's always been so nice to be part of that community, and like to go to events and see familiar faces, but also know that, like, especially as an Asian woman who is directing movies, that there is that support there, um,
hmm
from not only from people, um, who are, you know, working in nonprofits and stuff, but I also mean like other Asian filmmakers. I think as a
Hmm.
community, like it's really important that we show up for one another, and people have definitely shown me that. So I'm very grateful.
Well, I want to give you your flowers because I think the you are an example of that, right? I think what this industry needs are Asian filmmakers and are Asian female filmmakers, and then ones that will battle and fight to cast Asians in their films, is particularly ones that don't have to be Asian stories, right? I think that's the one category of, we see a lot on TV and film where, Asians might be fifth or sixth on the call sheet, but they're not number one or two or three. And, if we don't have filmmakers really, pushing against the grind that you described to get that to happen, uh, then we don't succeed. Give both of you your flowers. I don't know how much you read critics' reviews, but the limited number of people that have seen this film, the two consistent things I read are Andie is a star in the making and Jing Ai is a filmmaker to watch. So hopefully,
Thank you.
as the rest of the world gets to see this film, this is just the beginning for both of you, and that painting of the pair will someday be worth a lot of money, Andy. I'm going to see it in a Sotheby's auction someday.
Yeah.
Thank you,
Thank
Ben.
you.
Yeah.
You're welcome. Okay, I do have one final question before I let you go. It's our signature question for the podcast, which is, and you described some long days, Andy, on set. What is your favorite rice dish? Just rice based, so it could be rice noodles, that
Woo!
after a long day you just crave and want to feel like home.
Oh man, we don't have the time.
I
I
like
love,
nasi lemak, which is Malaysian breakfast. Yeah.
Malaysian breakfast. Describe what's in it.
It's coconut rice
Oh,
and
just
then
coconut rice. Okay.
sambal on the side. I'm Malaysian Chinese, so this is a
Mm,
par for the course answer. But it's coconut rice, rice cooked in coconut cream with
okay.
sambal, chili, with
Uh-huh.
preserved seafood, and
Hmm.
peanuts and some sort of curry, usually.
yeah.
I love
Nice.
that.
So
Yeah.
sweet, a little savory, and a little spicy. That's
Yeah.
perfect.
Yeah.
Okay.
I love noodles at the end of the day. I also love just like for me when someone asks me what my favorite food is, it is rice. Rice
Mm.
is my favorite
Same.
food. Yeah. Like just fond memories of going to Korean barbecue when I was younger and like having
Mm.
just like rice and meat. Just like a nice grilled piece of meat with like juices still on it and char and then like rice is just such a good pairing.
Agreed. Rice to me is the vehicle for some gravy, and then the rice is just the best. Like I'll eat
Totally.
every last grain.
Like
So
it is
wonderful.
a
Yeah.
staple. Yeah.
Yeah. You can always revise your answer if you come on again in the future. So I'll be paying attention to both of your projects in the future.
Okay.
Thank you
Um,
so
Thank
much.
you
it
so
was a
much.
joy to have you both. Like I said, I love the film. I've been waiting so long to have you both on May 15th. 15th is right? Is the day that some folks in LA will see it, and then the rest of the month, look for Forge in your local cities. Very
Mhm.
excited to talk to you both and very happy for you both. Thank you
Thank
so
you.
Thank
much.
you. Thank you for having us.